Batman, The Doom That Came to Gotham. The physical release of this movie in streaming doesn't come out until the 28th of this month, but thankfully my streaming service already has it. So I was very, very excited to watch this movie. I tried to stay away from the trailers, but I did end up giving in and watching them. It didn't seem like I was going to enjoy this movie as much as I did by the look of the trailers. They weren't bad, but I just wasn't quite sure what to expect. Sometimes that can be good, sometimes that can be a bad thing. But overall, just to get my final thoughts out of the way so you guys know, this movie is a must watch. It is insanely good, especially without having, Kevin Conroy around, rest in peace. The guy that is doing Batman in this movie, I have a hard time pronouncing his name. His first name is Dan. I don't know how to say his last name. I don't want to butcher it. But when I started the movie, I was curious to see how his Batman voice is, most importantly. And at the beginning, I wouldn't say I didn't like it, but I was a bit optimistic. And then as the movie goes on, it just gets better and better. It grows on you. You get more used to it. It sounds like Kevin Conroy a bit. It's kind of weird, but he did a terrific job, Dan. Hats off to you. This animation style of this movie and the overall style of the movie, it's set in the 1930s. I'm not too sure if you guys have seen Gotham by Gaslight. It's another movie that's kind of in the same time period where Batman goes after Jack the Ripper. I wasn't a huge fan of that movie, but I'm not too sure if this one is in the same time period or it's just completely its own thing. They do kind of tell you this is a different universe and it's completely different than, the Justice League and all that crap. Without shoving it down your throat, they'll just show you a few characters and make you kind of put the pieces together. What I really liked about this movie, first off, is just how they bring certain characters in. I'm not going to spoil anything, but you got Penguin, you got Ra's al Ghul, you got Hawkeye, you got Poison Ivy, you got a Harvey Dent, and a few others that they bring in here, and they're the same characters at their core when they're human, but when they turn evil or they get poisoned, they turn into a different version of themselves. Like Poison Ivy is still Poison Ivy, but there's more of a magical advantage to her. Like she literally has magic powers kind of. And they did it in a way what other Batman movies haven't done is to where they'll do the exact same thing. They'll bring in, if it's a different time period or something, they'll bring in other characters that we know and love, that we grew up with. And this is our first time seeing them in this new timeline. And for majority of the time, they don't do a good job. It just feels completely off, and something about it just doesn't feel right. Here, they do a really good job because they don't show you too much of them. You get just enough, and they have a purpose to be in the story, which makes it a lot better. They're not just there to say, hey, here's Hawkeye that you know and love, or Green Arrow that you know and love, but he has different powers. There's a bit more to it than that, yet again, without shoving it in your face. It's really hard to explain. You gotta watch the movie and you'll know what I mean. I really love the setting, the time, the whole 1930 vibe of it. Gotham looks not as dirty. It looks a lot more rich and full of life compared to other Batman movies, but I just like seeing a different Gotham for once. Not everything always has to be grungy and dirty. My favorite part of this whole movie is Batman himself. The shit that he goes through in this movie is insane. They only have an hour and a half Batman is in the majority of the movie, but there is other characters that get a bit of screen time. But it never feels like we're straying away from Batman because all those characters are either trying to help him or they do have a big part in the story. So you're as invested in their story as you are in Batman's. And then when you go back to Batman, it is yet again super hard to explain. And I'm trying not to ruin the movie because it's actually not out yet. But you get Batman at some of his most lowest points in this movie. Just being sad and straight up depressed to just going fucking insane. All in the matter of an hour and a half. It never feels like it's rushed. It never feels like it's overstaying its welcome. It's pretty much perfect, like a perfect Batman character study, in my opinion. They do kind of go back and do show his parents' death, but since this is a different timeline, it kind of happens different, and there's a different outcome, and there's a huge consequence for Batman after that. It's not like he just becomes Batman. There's a lot more to it. The movie was so dark, but yet had charm to it. But like, you know, not a Marvel thing where it completely ruins the movie. It was just enough. Everything was just quality over quantity. Another big thing about this movie was I was kind of curious because there's only like 20 minutes left when you get to the third act. I'm like, okay, well, are they going to make a part 2 and maybe make this one kind of like the Long Halloween? The third act will be a lot more investigating. By the way, you get a lot of Batman investigating, and it's fucking awesome. But when you get to the third act, like, you realize quality over quantity, like I said before. They did such a good job because they could have made this so bombastic and just over the top third act with this big doom that is coming to Gotham. And you still fucking feel it without this thing coming over and taking over the city. It's just its presence and just being there and how they animated it just makes the third act worth watching alone. This isn't really a spoiler, but the third act is basically like just a one-on-one battle, and I fucking loved it. Like I said, they could have just had a big climactic, or big battle at the third act, but it just came down to 1 against 1, and the reason why it is one of my favorite just finales of a Batman movie, all I'm gonna say is the shit that goes down here is fucking insane. I've never read this comic, so I don't know if it's in the book or not. I have no idea. But the shit they pull off here is so wacky, and just why we love comic books and these characters in the first place. It's something you've never seen in a Batman movie before. I don't know if you read it in a comic before, you probably have. But what they do here is just excellent. I don't really want to sit here and spoil it for you guys because it is a big thing. And the way the movie ends is just chef's kiss perfection, man. I can't say how much I love this movie. It's one of those feelings, you know, when you watch a movie and you're just like, that was fucking awesome. And there's no other way to describe it. Completely nailed the character of Batman. There's a bit of a spin on his character in this movie that just makes him go crazy that I've really never seen before. And I love that about this movie. Very unique, and it rewards you for watching it. Trust me, it's not a waste of time. I love movies that are unique and they just nail the execution. Perfect setup, perfect pacing. The movie, like I said, only an hour and a half. It flew by because you get sucked into it like crazy. Some amazing emotional core to Batman and Alfred and everyone else. There is not too much action, I would say. A lot of the movie is Batman being a detective, but if you're a big Batman geek like I am, I don't think that's gonna bother you. It's really, really well done. Animation's great, and overall, they knew a movie they wanted to make. And by the way this movie ends, I won't really say it's a cliffhanger, but I really, really do want another movie. Not exactly like this, but leading like following up to this movie. I think it would be really great. But if not, I think this is yet again another just one movie. You don't always need to have a big trilogy after, but this on its own, um, Doom the King of Gotham is a perfect standalone Batman movie. I think you'll get everything you want, like out of the character Batman himself, all the emotional core, and a great script. Really good. There's some really good motivational scenes, and there's some really good heart to heart. And then top that off with a great third act that makes you just makes the geek come out in you, man. I haven't said that in a while, but it really makes the whole crazy magic thing in this movie a lot more bearable when they just pull off really cool stuff. It's like Justice League Dark. It's really well done. Thank you guys for watching, and please, please do me a favor. Do yourself a favor and watch this movie when it comes out, because I think you guys are going to love it and eat it up like I did. Thanks again.